You earn $80,000 a year. You're smart, you're capable, and you've spent the last 3 years trying to finally get ahead. Yet every time you look at your bank account, the numbers don't match your effort. You tell yourself it's a lack of willpower. You tell yourself you just need a better budget or a stricter app. But the truth is, you're not failing at budgeting. You're being outmaneuvered by a 50,000-year-old biological survival mechanism. Your brain isn't just letting you buy things you don't need, it is actively tricking you into it. And if you don't learn how to rewire this specific neural loop today, you are going to stay financially paralyzed for the next decade, wondering where all that hard-earned money went. Think about the last time you were scrolling through your phone at 11 p.m. You weren't even looking for anything specific. Then you saw it. Maybe it was a gadget that promised to save you 10 minutes a day, or a piece of clothing that felt like the missing piece of your identity. In that moment, your heart rate spiked just a tiny bit. Your thumb hovered over the Buy Now button. You felt a rush of excitement, a sense of, I deserve this. But have you ever noticed how quickly that feeling vanishes? The second you click confirm, the high starts to fade. By the time the box arrives at your door, it's not even a source of joy anymore. It's a source of clutter and subtle underlying guilt. Be honest with yourself. How many of those must-have items are currently sitting in a drawer, unused and forgotten? This isn't a moral failure. You're not bad with money or lazy. What's actually happening is a high-stakes neural tug-of-war inside your skull, and currently, your old brain is winning. To understand why, we have to look at the brain like a slot machine that's been rigged against you from birth. Your brain is wired for a world that no longer exists. Thousands of years ago, if you found a berry bush or a source of clean water, you had to consume it or claim it immediately. Scarcity was the rule. Your brain developed a reward system, the dopamine loop, to make sure you didn't miss out on survival opportunities. When you see a limited time offer or a sale tag, your primitive brain doesn't see a discount on a pair of shoes, it sees a berry bush in the middle of a winter storm. It screams at you to grab it before it's gone. But here's the strange part. Dopamine isn't the chemical of pleasure, it's the chemical of anticipation. Dopamine is the itch, not the scratch. It's the brain's way of saying, go get that thing, and I promise you you'll feel amazing. But the moment you own the item, the dopamine drops off a cliff. This is why the thrill of the purchase always outweighs the reality of the product. You're being programmed to chase the ghost of a feeling that never actually arrives. This is what I call the neural tug-of-war. On one side, you have your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that earns that $70,000 salary, plans for retirement, and wants a house. On the other side, you have the ventral striatum, the part that just wants the shiny thing now. But the real problem isn't just dopamine, it's something much more invisible. It's how your brain views future you. Neuroscience research using fMRI scans has shown something truly terrifying about the human brain. When you think about yourself right now, a specific part of your brain lights up. But when you think about yourself 10 years from now, that part of your brain goes quiet. Instead, your brain processes future you as if they're a complete stranger, someone you don't even know, and quite frankly, someone you don't care about. This is why it's so easy to spend $200 today instead of saving it for retirement. To your brain, you're not stealing from your future. You're just giving a gift to yourself today and letting a stranger deal with the consequences. It's like buying a round of drinks for a room full of people you'll never see again using someone else's credit card. But that someone else is you. Have you ever felt that strange disconnect where you know you should save, but it feels like the money is just sitting there doing nothing? That's the stranger danger response in your own head. And this is where things get interesting. Most people think they buy things to have them, but you don't. You buy things to bridge the gap between who you are and who you want to be. This is called identity-based consumption. Your brain is constantly scanning for identity signals. If you feel insecure about your career, your brain might trick you into buying a $2,000 laptop you don't need because it makes you feel like a high performer. If you feel lonely, your brain might trick you into buying social signals, the right brands, the right car, to prove you belong. But here's what most people never realize. The more you use external objects to fix internal gaps, the more you reinforce the neural pathway that says, I am not enough as I am. Every time you buy something to feel better, you're essentially telling your brain that your current self is broken and needs a purchase to be fixed. You're reinforcing a broken brain pattern. What would you do if you realized that every Amazon box arriving at your door was actually a physical manifestation of a moment where you felt less than? Think about this. Why is it that a $60,000 earner can feel richer and more at peace than someone making $120,000? It's not about the math, it's about the reward circuitry. The $120,000 earner is often trapped in a loop where their brain has acclimatized to a high level of stimulation. They need bigger purchases just to get the same small dopamine hit. It's like a drug tolerance. If you don't rewire the way your brain perceives value, your spending will always rise to meet and then exceed your income. This is why lifestyle creep isn't the financial problem, it's a neurological one. But wait, it gets even deeper. There's a mechanism called loss aversion. Evolutionarily, losing a meal was much more dangerous than gaining one was beneficial. Therefore, your brain is twice as sensitive to loss as it is to gain. Marketers know this. When you see a countdown timer or a one item left in stock warning, your brain doesn't think about the money you're spending. It thinks about the loss of the opportunity. Your brain triggers a scarcity alarm. This shuts down the logical part of your brain, the part that knows you have a car payment due next week, and forces you into emergency mode. In this state, you're not making a choice, you're reacting to a perceived threat. You must buy it now or you've lost. Does that feeling of frantic urgency sound familiar? That's not a choice, that's a biological hijack. Now be honest with yourself. Which one are you? Are you the identity buyer who buys to feel like someone else? Or are you the scarcity reactor who can't stand the idea of missing out? Once you identify your primary brain trap, you can start the rewiring process. You see, your brain is plastic. It can change, but it won't change just because you wish it would. It changes through pattern interruption. The next time you feel that itch to buy, I want you to try a 24-hour dopamine delay. When you put the item in your cart, tell your brain, we can have this, but not for 24 hours. This does something miraculous. It separates the dopamine spike, the anticipation, from the actual transaction. After 24 hours, the dopamine levels reset, and your prefrontal cortex, the rewired brain, wakes back up. You'll find that 80% of the time, the must-have item feels completely irrelevant 24 hours later. You'll look at the screen and think, what was I even thinking? That moment, that what was I thinking moment, is the sound of your brain rewiring. It's the sound of your logic regaining control over your impulses. But there's a final trick your brain plays, and this one is the most dangerous. It's the sunk cost loop. Once you've spent years buying things you don't need, your brain doesn't want to admit that it made a mistake. To do so would cause cognitive dissonance, a painful mental friction. So your brain tricks you into keeping the junk, which keeps the visual reminder of your failure in front of you every day. This clutter actually increases your cortisol, the stress hormone. And what do we do when we're stressed? We look for a dopamine hit. We go back to the buy now button to escape the stress caused by the last things we bought. It's a self-perpetuating cycle of financial destruction. You are literally paying to stress yourself out and then paying more to try and forget the stress. But you can break it. The shift happens when you stop viewing money as a tool to buy things and start viewing it as a tool to buy time and autonomy. Every time you don't buy that useless gadget, you aren't missing out. You are buying a piece of your future freedom. You are buying the ability to quit a job you hate, to start a business, or to simply sleep peacefully at night without the weight of debt. You've been programmed by a world that wants you to be a consumer, because a consumer is predictable and easy to control. But a rewired earner is dangerous. A rewired earner understands their biological triggers. They know that a $70,000 salary is a fortune if your brain isn't leaking money through 1,000 tiny holes. They know that the most valuable thing they can own isn't the brand or a device, it's a brain that is no longer for sale. So what is the one thing you've been tricked into buying recently? Don't judge yourself, just observe it. Look at the item and ask, what was my brain trying to solve with this? Was it loneliness, insecurity, a fear of missing out? Once you name the trigger, it loses its power over you. You start to see the strings on the puppet. This journey of rewiring isn't about deprivation, it's about power. It's about taking the wheel of your own biology and steering it towards the life you actually want to live instead of the one you're being sold. And once you start noticing these internal tricks your brain plays to get you to spend, something strange happens. You begin to see the deeper psychological patterns that go back way further than your last shopping trip. Patterns that might be physically blocking your ability to even see wealth as a possibility, which is exactly why you need to see the literal evidence behind how your brain was programmed in the first place. And once you start noticing these habits, something strange happens. You begin to see the deeper psychological patterns behind them, which is exactly what I break down in this video.